Hey everyone, it's John here from Hot Take Hockey. Welcome back to the channel. This is the 2024 NHL Bracket Challenge video. The playoffs are back. First round matchups are set. I was just watching LA-Chicago. LA got the point they needed to face off against Edmonton. Who knows if they wanted that. Vegas, Dallas, now set as well. So if you're new to the channel, welcome. I'll be doing live streams and videos on this channel all through the playoffs, live streams on Bleacher Report. I'll be doing some CTV News channel appearances if you're here in Canada. But for the US, there's a lot of big-time matchups on the east side. And, of course, 4 Canadian teams this year for a chance for the Stanley Cup to return to Canada. So if you're a new subscriber, welcome. I hope you give the channel a chance. Hit the like button, notification bell, and drop your comments, your predictions for the first round. This is my bracket challenge for the full playoffs, and I'll be doing some breakdowns of each round, but, of course, also live streams for individual games. So let's get right into it. Not going to waste any time. Not going to waste your time. Let's get into it. Starting at the top left with Dallas, Vegas, defending Stanley Cup champions. I think you look at the Golden Knights. I mean, I think they're beat up a little bit. I think they have a good chance to really battle it out in this series, but I really think the difference maker could be a couple factors here, including goaltending. So I think I don't want to say everyone, but I think everyone's going to look at the Stars, and a lot of people are going to pick the Stars. I feel to go in that direction. But again, Vegas, they're getting Mark Stone back. They just got Hurdle. So that's what makes this so tough for me. So while I think Vegas could have the roster, I still think they're beat up. I'm going to go Dallas in 7. I think this is going to be close. I think some people are saying Dallas is just going to knock them out because they're beat up. Guys, everyone was complaining about Vegas LTIR. I think Vegas could very much win this series. And honestly, if they do, I think they can go on a run. I think a lot of people are kind of going in so many different directions with this series. I actually think this is like one of the most controversial ones because I think people were saying if this ends up being the series, they're just going to beat up on each other. This is going to be the most competitive series in the Western Conference, and I honestly really believe that. I think a close number 2 in terms of skill, in terms of top and potential to go on a run is Winnipeg, Colorado. And I really think the only reason that Edmonton and LA is going to be just insane and chaos is because they've played each other the last 2 years. So that's where I go, okay, I think the West could be crazy. And then Vancouver, Nashville, I don't think people know what to expect, but we know the favorite there. So Dallas, and you know what? Jets are the favorites here. A lot of people are going Winnipeg, but actually I don't even know if the Jets are the favorite. I don't think they're necessarily the favorite, but a lot of people are downing on Colorado because of the goaltending matchup here. Because at the end of the day, the Jets went on kind of that slide there for a bit, but they finished 3 points ahead of Colorado. The big conversation with the Avs is they just don't have that second goalie behind Georgiev, and he hasn't been consistent, and Hellebuck's just been a beast. I'm going Colorado, though. I think we've seen what they can do, and I think after the Cup and after seeing Vegas get it last year, I think they're going to be really hungry. And I mean, Nate Dogg's just on a different mission. And I think they've got 2 of the best hockey players in the world. So as much as Winnipeg, guys, there's so many things that points towards Winnipeg here. On paper, goaltending. On paper, you know what? Colorado might have the defense group, but Winnipeg stepped up big time. And when you look at the forward depth, I mean, I'm taking the Jets. Colorado made some good additions, though. Duhaime, Trennan, Middlestat filled a huge role. And a huge hole up the middle. So I think Winnipeg's got a fair shot, but that's one Canadian team out. So you got Colorado, Dallas, second round. That'd be electric. Vancouver, Nashville. I'm not going to waste any time. I'm going the Canucks. At the end of the day, I don't want to disrespect Nashville in any way, but I really think if the Canucks lose this series, it would be a nightmare. Like, you cannot lose this series if you're the Canucks. You were a disaster. Then you had an unbelievable year this season, and the Preds have just really gotten hot, but I think this is your series to win. But at the same time, it kind of screams that could be an upset for Nashville. So I think where I'm not going to down the Canucks, like this one, it makes me think it could be the upset. Like when I look at like, I don't want to spoil the rest of my bracket here, but when I look at the first round matchups where there's a clear favorite, clear upset, and Vancouver Nashville is one of them, this one could give me upset vibes. I don't think the goaltending matchup's too far off. I think Saros can match up against Demko any night. I think when you're talking about best defenseman of the league this year, or one of the best, Quinn Hughes, but Roman Josi can match up against him. And really, at the end of the day, yeah, the Canucks have top-end forwards that are better than Nashville's top-end forwards, but Nashville has the forwards to suppress that. So I'm going to go Canucks in 7. I think a Colorado in 6. Sorry, I didn't clarify that, but I think Vancouver in 7 because I think it's going to be a really tough series. I think Nashville's going to squeak out games there. But, hey, we'll see. That's why it's playoff hockey. And LA, Edmonton, I got to go Oilers. Again, maybe this is a boring side of the bracket so far in terms of some obvious ones, but they've done it 2 years in a row against LA. I really don't see enough to move the needle again. And just watch me get every first round match. Honestly, guys, the crazy part is I look at this and I could totally see a scenario where it's like Vegas, Winnipeg, second round. But on this side, I feel like those would be 2 pretty heavy upsets to see both Nashville and LA knock out those 2 Canadian teams. If that happened, I mean, we're getting the most unpredictable playoffs ever. So I'm pretty confident that one of those 2 Canadian teams will succeed. LA, man, like I would have just, you know what, if I was the Kings, and not to say that you're going to throw that last game of the season against Chicago, but I would have just wanted a different look. The Stars have been like a juggernaut this year, but I would have just wanted a different look. Connor McDavid, Leon Draisaitl, they've had their number. Yeah, there's been tough games and close games. The only like wild card X factor here is if Cam Talbot has a revenge series, to be honest. Like I think that's like a far-fetched potential, but it's possible. We'll see who steps up for LA in their goaltending, but I think the Oilers were like down and out essentially mid-season, and some of these guys have just dragged them back into being a legit contender. So to do all that just to get knocked out in the first round, unlikely. So again, I could see the Nashville upset maybe if they really play the matchup game against Pettersson, but I'm thinking that I'm gonna go with this. All right, let's go to the bottom. I'm gonna go Carolina. Again, we're riding the favorites here, but I think at the end of the day, the thing I'll say about the Hurricanes is, and I was talking about this in the shout out to the Sports Beard, I think when you look at the Hurricanes, they've always playing this man-on-man. They're always playing this shutdown but heavy forecheck. A lot of the same features as the Islanders, but it's got to be the Aho show this year, but it's also got to be some of the contributors around him. Gensel's a big-time playoff performer. Jarvis is a huge gem. He could be a really sneaky playoff performer and probably shouldn't be sneaky anymore. And, of course, Svetch. So I think Carolina, Rangers, rematch of what we've seen before. Again, Washington, maybe they surprise us, but at the end of the day, Rangers got everything going on, and I think even on Lindgren's best days, Shesterkin, he's been heating up. So they're basically every matchup the Rangers have is they would have to completely have a meltdown. They lost in the first round of the Devils last year. I truly cannot see them screwing the pooch again. But again, it's playoffs. It's playoff hockey, guys. That's the one thing we love about NHL hockey in the playoffs is that it is the most unpredictable playoffs and the most chaotic. Entertaining, obviously. So there's that. Toronto, Boston. I mean, I'm going to go Toronto, but there's only really a couple reasons for that. I think, so when you're talking momentum and when you're talking about who's had their number, I mean, Boston, it's not like they're riding crazy hot or anything, but Toronto's lost their last 4 games, but then before that, they won 6 of the last 7. So you ignore the last 4 games for Toronto. They were heating up there. Into April, all through March, Toronto was really hot. So if you ignore the last 4 games, Toronto's been buzzing. But I think Boston's obviously had their number. I mean, at some point, you just got to exercise the demons. And I think the Leafs' depth is as good as it's ever been. I think, to me, if Ryan O'Reilly's on this Leafs team, say sub O'Reilly in on this team, and I don't know, I could just say someone random in the forward group, but say you don't have David Kampf on this Leafs team, and you don't have Cal Yarncrow, and the combined $4 and a bit million goes towards O'Reilly. Again, O'Reilly didn't want to return to Toronto, but my point is, a piece like that, and there's no doubt the Leafs are winning this series in my eyes. But I do think the defensive side is the concern here, because Boston definitely is better on that side of things, and they have the goaltending duo. So I said this, I'll say it again. If Samsonov or one of the Leafs goaltending can be like 70-80% of what Sammy was against Tampa last year, I mean, the Leafs should be winning this series. It's really going to come down to goaltending. Florida, Tampa. See, I'm really, really stuck on this one. I am really stuck on this one. I actually said everything was pointing towards Florida, and I honestly think Florida is, to me, the obvious favorite. But there's X factors for why I'm picking Tampa here. It seems crazy. But if Vasilevsky is Vasilevsky, Stamkos contract year, Kucherov the way he was heating up, if Hedman can get back to form, Tampa's defense, well, it's not much better. I think it's better. Montour and Forsling is the Florida's defense. Like, that's it. Your second pair is what? Is it Mikkola and Kulikov? Is that what it is? So if it's that, you could be in some trouble if you're Florida in a playoff series against Tampa's forward group, because while Tampa's forward group has been inconsistent at times, you still got that top six that's electric, and you could and Cooper's played a third line matchup game when he can, and I mean, they brought in Dumba, they brought in Duclair. Florida also brought in Tarasenko. Reinhardt's been electric. I mean, Florida's probably got one of the best top nines in the Eastern Conference. There's so many things that can go back and forth. I think with Florida, if Bobrovsky plays, again, I'm using that 70-80% thing. If Bobrovsky can play at least 70-80% of what we saw last year in the playoffs against, like how he played against Toronto in the second round, I think Florida wins this series. But if Vasilevsky can go back to form the way I think he can, I think Stammer's, he's got to go off, right? He's in a contract year. So I totally could see Florida winning this series, no doubt. But I'm just going to go with the momentum storyline on this one, and a Toronto-Tampa rematch of last year's first round. I mean, obviously it was Toronto-Florida's second round, but I'll go Toronto-Tampa, Rangers, Hurricanes, Oilers, Canucks, Avs, Stars. You got to go a couple upsets. I'm going Tampa as an upset, and I'm going Colorado as a upset. All right, second round. Let's rip through it. I'm going to go Toronto has Tampa's number. Let's run it. And I'm going to go Rangers. I've been joking around with people since, 2019, since both the Leafs and Rangers have had the young core growing, that one day there's going to be an Eastern Conference final. Well, we're 2024 now, and I think both those teams are ready to take the jump. The only thing, again, the downfall of the Leafs is, do they have enough on their defense group, and the goaltending, the massive question mark. Both those things, I would say the Rangers are ahead on, right? I mean, the Rangers definitely, at times this season, Keandre Miller and Trouba have been a bit of a mess. Shesterkin's turned it on, so definitely not a worry on that side. West side, I'm going to go the Avs, man. I think, again, they could be a team that totally just falls off the cliff, or they could go all the way, I think. Georgiev, he just needs to carry his weight. Like Kemper, he carried his weight. It's not like he was anything amazing, but he carried his weight with a good defense group in front of him, with the forward group that Colorado added quite a bit. Colorado to the conference final, upsets Dallas. I think this totally could be Dallas's year, but I don't think they want to play Colorado. I think if Dallas gets the matchup against Winnipeg, that's the matchup they want, because Dallas's forward group, very similar to Winnipeg's in my opinion. I think they're deeper. Their defense group can match up, and you've got a goaltender that can match up against a Hellebuck to a degree. Colorado, I think just the top end talent if they get going and pass the first round, I think that's what we've seen from Edmonton too. Obviously, they haven't won a cup. They haven't gotten, but I think just when those type of guys get going, I think it's hard to stop. So Colorado, and we'll go the rematch. Colorado, Edmonton, Toronto, Rangers. And I'm going to go a Colorado Rangers Stanley Cup final. Rangers win the cup. I'm not even wasting any time. Guys. Rangers win the cup. See, I think there's a lot of factors on what the Rangers need to do to win the Stanley Cup this year. But there's a couple factors I'll say. And one being Lafreniere. I've been saying when that guy breaks out, like we saw with the Rangers when they went to the conference final, the kid line of Hedl, Kakko, and Lafreniere was a huge X factor. And Lafreniere wasn't even close to what he is now. You put Lafreniere in the equation now with what he's become, he's going to be a huge X factor in the playoffs. If Keandre Miller can be responsible, if Trouba can be physical and chill out his game, you got a playoff style defense group there. And if Shesterkin plays the way he's been playing, guys, if Shesterkin can play like one of the best goalies in the world, he is a goalie that can get hot here. So, you know what? I think we could see a run from Colorado. I think we could see a run from Edmonton. I think we could see a run from Dallas on the west side. But, I mean, Vegas, you could go through so many teams, but I'm really thinking that Central Division right now, the only team on that bottom half, that bottom left half, that I could think can go to the cup final is Edmonton. And that's no shot against a team like Vancouver. I just think going from a disaster to like a Stanley Cup, you don't see that very often, right? Like at least you're dipping your toes. Vancouver hasn't really been dipping their toes too often. Edmonton, they've been dipping their toes and they've got the best player in the world, two of the best players in the world. So on the bottom left half, that's the only team I could see doing it. Top left half, I seriously could see any of Dallas, Vegas, Winnipeg, and Colorado going on a run. So it's really hard. Again, it's playoff hockey. It's so tough to predict. So Rangers for the cup, I just think they're built. I think they've got a lot going on right now. And I think they've got depth too. So I do think I would have liked, I was kind of on that train with them and Toronto and a few other teams to have like a Boone Jenner type. I think that could have benefited the Rangers. But I do think they are the well-oiled machine. And again, Georgiev, Shesterkin, a couple Russian tendies, but Shesterkin should win that battle, right? So give me your thoughts. I always kind of look at who's looking good going into the playoffs, but also like just kind of a feeling on the roster. Shesterkin, everyone knows he was really inconsistent there for a while. But if you look at his last 4 games of the season, I think we really saw the Shesterkin we know. He had a couple shutouts in March as well, but a shutout in April looked really, really good in that Islanders game there at the end. So it's just kind of a feeling. Again, we'll see what happens. I usually just kind of take my shot at like who has the path to go far. And I really, really think between the Rangers and Hurricanes, those two teams have the best shot to make it to the conference final on that side. Again, the two favorites, but it's really hard. It's hard to take like the Islanders and Caps where the firepower is just not there at this time. It could turn on. Barzal could turn on. Obviously, Ovi, magical run. Let's see it. But I think Rangers Avs is a good shot. I feel like I've been kind of mixing those two teams in my conversation. Again, I feel like Dallas is built as well. So again, it's playoff hockey. Everyone's going to hate. Everyone's going to get at me, but it's predictions for a reason. So give me your thoughts, guys. Hit the subscribe button, like, notification bell, all that good stuff. And we'll see you throughout the playoffs. Have a great one. Peace.